lascio poi introdurre Carola. Tutto
Grazie,
te.
grazie.
Bocca al lupo.
Ok, crepi. Ok, vado in inglese così anche per le persone che parlano inglese. Quindi, I've been a cybersecurity journalist for some years. Recently, I'm working as a cybersecurity awareness manager in a company, but I've been covering darknets and cybercrime and hacktivism and some state-sponsored attacks. So today I want to talk about operational security from an attacker standpoint. And of course, we are going to talk about also the human factor because in the operational security, you can get the technology right, but you can still fail your OPSEC. And of course, there is a difference between the technology and the tradecraft. So you can have a very secure, strong technology, but maybe you are not really able to use it in a proper way. Or even if you have the right tradecraft, you can still commit some mistakes, make some mistakes that depending most of the times from human vulnerabilities. Some of them, not all of them, are listed here. So for instance, your past, an undisciplined past, because even the most skilled attacker with the best OPSEC had a time where it wasn't that way. And so either you have no connection with your past or your past is going to break your OPSEC. Then no compartmentation of identities and also of different operations. We know that it's important, compartmentation is important for devices, for the average user or for the analyst, but from an attacker point of view, it's important especially for identities, because when you have contamination of identities, we will see many cases where contamination of identities will have compromised some of these hackers or cyber criminals, depending on what they're doing. Also, another thing is undeletable data. We all know that data sometimes is difficult to delete, but it's especially difficult on the internet when it may be out of your control. It's not like, wiping something on your device. So like sent messages, tweets, posts on forums. There are many things that maybe you think you have deleted and actually they haven't. Or maybe someone else archived them. And also language. Language is the most underestimated human vulnerability in OPSEC. And so that's why I say that language is a traitor, because we leave many traces in language. And I can tell you, because I've been studying humanities and languages. But of course, you can't use it maybe as evidence, but it can be enough to get a warrant or to support a warrant. And of course, also money flows, because we all know the old investigative technique of following the money. But especially when you move a lot of money, you can make a lot of mistakes, or there may be vulnerabilities in the cryptocurrency you use, in the payment processor you use, and also especially during the cash out process. Then the rush to get results. If you are under pressure, maybe because you are in a group, maybe it's a state-sponsored group, and you need to get results quickly, or your cover has been blown out, and so the rush to get results is going to break your OPSEC, or is going not to make you plan it properly. And then group dynamics. The biggest the group and the worst, unless it's really a hierarchical military group. So group dynamics are bad for OPSEC, or maybe they can be exploited for finding vulnerabilities in OPSEC, depending on your standpoint, of course. And also peer pressure and the need of recognition, especially in groups like cybercriminal groups, but also hacktivists, is a major factor, because maybe you need to change your identity, but then you also need to be reaccepted and recognized in a certain community. And so there is a sort of conflict of interest. So let's see some cases. This one is about Harold Martin. Harold Martin was a contractor for the NCA and has been recently sentenced to 9 years for stealing secret documents. He actually had a ton of documents in his house, even in his car. And he was doing a PhD in information security management, and according to the indictment, he used virtual machines, encryption, anonymization systems, probably, I think, Tails or a similar one, because they say a software tool that runs without being installed, provides anonymous internet access, and so on and so. Also, he had an ability to conceal his online communications and access to the internet. However, his OPSEC was really, really bad. You remember the shadow brokers? It was 2016, and there was this mysterious group dumping NSA tools and exploits on internet. Actually, then from those exploits, from some of those exploits, we also had WannaCry and NotPetya afterwards. Anyway, half an hour before the shadow brokers basically came out, Martin sent strange messages to Kaspersky researchers through direct messages on Twitter, and using a Twitter handle, this AL9999. The fact is that this Twitter handle was connected to his real life, as we shall see. And of course, the researchers who received these messages were really suspicious, and they thought that he may be connected to the shadow brokers group, or the things that was going on. So they actually tipped off the NSA or someone in the government in the US. And then the FBI raided Martin's house and found really a lot of national defense documents. So how did they find him? Basically through some Google searches, because apparently he used the same Twitter handle or display name, it's a little bit different, in a personal ad on a dating website. So there was this ad seeking some sex partners, and with the same handle, with the same username. And also this ad had a real picture of Martin at his real age and location. But digging and doing some searches, the researchers also found a LinkedIn profile for Martin, where he, of course, was saying that he was working in the cyber offensive field. And also you notice that he was using this acronym, Cambric. It stands for compute cloud, artificial intelligence, cybersecurity. But it's not, I don't think it's so common. And he actually used the same one also in the LinkedIn profile. He was really keen on this. I don't know why. Anyway, so we have the Twitter handle that goes to the dating site and his real photo, location, and age. And then somehow to the LinkedIn profile, where also you have some language clues linking the two profiles. And also, the Twitter account was created with an email associated to his real life. And on a social network, you also had on a social network with, again, this same username, he had, again, his picture, actually the picture of the driving license, so really an official one. So yeah, clearly there are quite big OPSEC mistakes, and also to finish the story, he has been sentenced for stealing and willfully retaining these documents, but not for espionage. So apparently he didn't pass these documents to others, or it has not been proved. So, okay. Another case, another recent case was the breach of Capital One. Capital One is this banking and financial company that was breached in reality in March, even if it came out later. So it was breached, and the data of millions of customers were exposed, like data such as credit scores, credit applications, and so some of this leaked data were stored openly on GitHub. And Capital One has been tipped by someone who saw this data and wrote an email to their email address, like it was the email address for disclosing vulnerabilities. So this is also a suggestion to companies that it's good to have a point of contact to receive tips about security, at the very least, an email. And anyway, this GitHub page, I know it sounds a little bit crazy, but included the full name of Paige Thompson, which is the main suspect and has been arrested for this case. And it was linked to other pages on GitLab, linked to Thompson and her resume. Also, she posted about the hack on a Slack channel, also naming her VPN provider, which matched the Capital One logs of the intruder and also the GitHub logs. And also, there are many other things like a meetup group that was linked to the Slack channel and had her name as organizer, and also the same alias erratic that was present all over and was also on Twitter with a real picture where she was talking about the hack somehow. Probably if you look at the feed, the Twitter feed, she was probably having some hard times anyway. And this is another case, a dramatic one, actually. It's about Alexander Kazes. I don't know the pronunciation, but it was this young programmer from Canada who moved to Thailand, and he was the alleged kingpin behind Alpha Bay Market. You know, Alpha Bay Market has been for a while one of the most important marketplace in the darknets, selling drugs, but also it was actually quite important hub for the English cybercrime community. He has been arrested in Bangkok, and he actually committed suicide after a few days in prison. Some years before, the administrator of Alpha Bay, so maybe allegedly Kazes, had declared that he was secure. I mean, he was certain that his OPSEC was secure and that he was living in an offshore country. So what went wrong from an OPSEC perspective? Again, an email address. You know, email is really like a very common element in this presentation. Anyway, an email address in the Alpha Bay forum welcome message. So we had this email address that linked to his real name, and then to LinkedIn and to PayPal. And now we see how exactly. What happened is that in December 2013, Alphabay added a forum. You have to know that these marketplaces, they are like eBay markets where there are vendors selling stuff, mostly illegal stuff, and but they usually have also a forum as well, where users, create a sort of community. So there was this forum, and the users who registered on it got a greeting message from the site. And in this greeting message, in the header, there was this mail, pimpalex91, hotmail. 2 years later, actually, this mail has been present for a short time in 2014, and then it's been removed. But 2 years later, the FBI received a tip, probably, or anyway, learned somehow that there was this greeting email and started to investigate on the email address, on the connected email address. Yeah, the email was also present in the, it was also in the recovery process of the password. So there were at least two places. Anyway, the FBI linked it to his identity and to his LinkedIn account. Of course, he was born in 1991. You see, 91, he had the same year also in the email address. And also there was a PayPal account that was connected to this Hotmail account, and also other things, like he used this pseudonym, Alpha02, as administrator of Alphabay, but this alias has been used in the past, even in an old post on a tech forum where it was linked to his name. So another important, interesting aspect of this case was the way he was arrested. Because as you know, and in the last years, there have been a lot of cases where investigators and police really try to get the laptop of these suspects when the laptop is not closed and encrypted. So they really need to overcome the encryption in a creative way. So basically, in this case, the police caused Alphabay servers to shut down, forcing cases to try to access them and to reboot the last talk of law enforcement caused outage. So I don't know exactly, but I think it's very interesting. And then, so they tricked him to crash the car through his gate. And so he went out to see what was going on. And in this moment, he recovered all the passwords for the servers that were stored in an unencrypted text. Monero, Ethereum, and Bitcoin around the world. Of course, when we talk about email and also contamination of identity, we have to talk about also Ross Ulbricht. Ross Ulbricht, as you probably know, is being the creator of Silk Road, which was the first marketplace of this kind. And the investigation on Ulbricht is actually very complex. But so I just focus on this, but I mean, it's not been identified just because of this, but this is just interesting because he basically used this handle, Altoid, to publicize Silk Road at the very, very beginning, when no one really knew about the site. But of course, he had, he needed to promote it somehow. So he pretended to be just a user talking about this site and promoting it. And actually, this post has been saved in a quote from someone else. So, and later on the same forum, he was looking for some developer for some Bitcoin-related project, something very vague. But he used the same nickname, the same Altoid handle, and he wrote his email. In his email and his real name. So there is Ross Ulbricht at gmail.com. So you see, there is really, of course, if you are investigating this case, you start to look for the very first appearances of mentions of Silk Road, who is talking about it, and then you start, to look for it. But also, again, we were talking about the creative strategies to get unencrypted laptops, and Ross Ulbricht is an example because he has been arrested when he was working in a public library, and they wait for him to be connected, to logged in Silk Road, and two FBI agents, a woman and a man, simulated a fight just behind him, a very violent fight, so that he got distracted, and they snatched the laptop in a second. So, and they got really a lot of things, a lot of evidence from his laptop. He even wrote a diary, a journal about his about Silk Road project, basically. So, as the expert, the group wrote, we have a lot of things here. We have a lot of OPSEC failures, poor compartmentation, also profiling, because if you would go to his LinkedIn profile, you would see that he had the same ideology that the Dread Pirate Robert, the persona administering Silk Road, was promoting. So there was also this kind of contamination. Another case from the underworld markets is the case of Oxy Monster. He was a vendor on marketplace Dream Market. He was arrested in the US after he flew to the US to attend the bird competition, which sounds, again, a little crazy because he was selling drugs to US customers. He was living in France, but he was selling around the world, and he was selling drugs also in the US. But he felt safe enough to go there to attend the bird competition, and he actually brought his own work laptop with him. So border guards searched his laptop. I'm not sure how they accessed the laptop, if it was, again, like this, the former case, getting his laptop when he was using it, or if he didn't have a password, I have no idea. But anyway, they found a lot of stuff, credentials for Dream Market, private keys, Bitcoins, and so on. But the question here is, why was he a suspect in the first place? So, because some tips. Because he was also, I talked of forums before, so he was actually doing some community activity, community support in the forum, helping people, and he was receiving donations from people for this through a Bitcoin address. And from this address, there were some transactions going to a local Bitcoin account that was registered to this Gal Valerius. So the police started to investigate about this Gal Valerius, trying to understand who was, and found his social accounts, his profiles, And they analyzed his writing style because basically they compared his writing style to the writing style of Oxymosters on Dream Market, because they had a lot of comments left by Oxymoster on the forums. So they did this writing and a comparison. There were, he was using a lot of exclamations, quotation marks, French words, other kind of specific words. Okay, of course you are not going to maybe to sentence someone just for this, but it may be enough to get a warrant and to search his laptop at the border as it happened. So basically, in this case, we have chain analysis, social media OSINT, writing analysis, and device search at the border. And the mistakes were that he didn't use no tumblers, no way of, obfuscating the trails of Bitcoin transactions, no compromission of identities, no avoiding the US in his case, and no encryption on the laptop, or anyway, not being careful about the encryption. Also, activism. There are many cases in the activism field that we could talk about. There is one, let's say, famous case, is the one about Jeremy Hammond. Jeremy Hammond has been, has been an anonymous anti-sec hacker. And he has been identified thanks also to some chats, to some chat logs, also saved by another former hacktivist, Sabu, who was arrested before and then started to work as, for the FBI, basically. So if Sabu says that friends will try to take you down if they have to, you're going to believe him. So Jeremy Hammond was identified also through a triangulation of real-life insights that he revealed through his nicknames, because he used more than one nickname. So like Anarchaos. He revealed some of real-life snippets of him. For instance, also in his real life, he had been arrested also for his activism. He was known. He was, kind of already monitored somehow. So it's been not difficult to put the puzzle together. And then after they started suspecting him, they've been doing really physical monitoring of him, and also they used these devices, pen and track devices, that basically try to see if he's connected, when he's online, if he's using, for instance, Tor. And so strong with all these probable cause elements, they went and arrested him. And so, as I said before, groups are often an enemy of OPSEC or an ally for people who are analysts researching on these groups. We have social dynamics, groupthink, the need of peer recognition, the exchange of tools, all factors that weaken OPSEC. Also, hacktivists are easy to infiltrate and more easier than cybercriminal groups, and of course easier than state-sponsored groups. And here they come, the state-sponsored groups at last. So Guccifer 2.0 and the GRU and the GRU, which sounds a little bit like, I don't know, a music band. Yeah, the Guccifer. And So they are state-sponsored hackers. They are supposedly Russian GRU, military service, intelligence services, responsible for the Democratic National Committee hack, right? You remember? It was 2016, and just before the US presidential election, and there have been all these hacks and leaks of democratic emails and documents. So when this happened, and there have been some talks immediately about some Russian attribution, this hacker came out of the blue. It was like a lone Romanian hacker called Guccifer 2.0, claiming bullshit and so on. But then this claim started to manage to interview him on Twitter, and at a certain point he switched to Romanian, so it was from Google Translate, so it was not native. And also there were some identifying metadata IP address from Moscow. These are all according to the indictment, to the American VPN at a certain point. But also, all the group, all the activities were kind of eight, so the same malware, the same infrastructure, and also the money flows, again, mainly Bitcoin, mined Bitcoin that have been used to purchase the same pool of Bitcoin. There are some different things that have been purchased, and also from the same Bitcoin address, we have a connection between Guccifer and another site, which was the DC Leaks site, which claimed to be made by American activists. So apparently, Guccifer blog and the DC Leaks site were supposed to be separate entities, and in fact, the funding showed that were very much connected. Also, some researchers found from the bit.ly link, the bit.ly URL that was that were put in the spear phishing emails sent to targets, they were able to see all the campaign, all the attacker campaign, because the bit.ly account they used was not set to private, was public basically, so they could see all the bit.ly links they used in the phishing campaign. And this has been like a window into the attacker activities. And another case, another state-sponsored case is the one about Lazarus Group. Lazarus Group is supposed to be a North Korean state hacking group, and responsible for things like Sony hack, the Bangladesh bank hack, and also WannaCry. And so the US charged a specific person, a specific North Korean, Park Jin-hyuk, and for being behind this campaign. How did they do? Basically, Park Jin-hyuk was working for a company, Chosun Expo company. But for the US investigators, this is just a front company for North Korean intelligence. And they found connection between the email used by Park Jin-hyuk in his official activities, connection with the email used by the attackers. So again, contamination between the real, or anyway, the real identity and the attacker identity. And if we are going to look forward, we've been focusing a lot on the issue of the identity of the attacker, so the who. but it's also how you are going to, what you are going to know about the attack, how it's made, the outcomes of the attack is going to be important, so the what. And actually, as successful cybercriminals are the ones who are able to avoid both detection of their crimes and their identification. This is a quote from this interesting paper, Deviant Security, which is focusing on the way, on the security from the perspective of cybercriminals, and the way is different from, the security that is implemented by all the others. And so some final takeaways, always from an OPSEC perspective, so from a neutral OPSEC perspective. So if you have good crypto, with that I mean cryptography, but you fail at OPSEC and tradecraft, then you are going, to lose. However, crypto helps, so encryption is still very relevant. For instance, we have seen it because investigators are really are desperate to get the devices unencrypted. So it's quite an important issue. So of course, don't reveal operational data, don't link different op campaigns together. Don't contaminate, so don't contaminate identities, and we have seen it. Don't keep logs, but no logs, no crime, said the group. But the fact is that people love logging. And also cybercriminals love logging for many reasons, also for convenience. And also, your OPSEC can be good, but when you start, that's when probably you are going to mess up. If you are going to build a big attacking campaign with many targets, as we have seen, well, your OPSEC is going to be very hard and expensive, and probably the attribution sooner or later will come to you. And the solitary, highly skilled, one-off hacker is probably the toughest one to identify, and especially if it doesn't move much money. So at the end, I think that just watching these cases, I think that we can conclude that operational security is really rooted in psychology. It's really rooted in mental well-being also, not just in tradecraft, not just in knowledge, skills, but it's really rooted in the ability to be autonomous, to be patient, to be calm. And this is, I think, a good takeaway for all the average users, for all the other people, not for the cyber criminals or the attackers, but it really is a good takeaway lesson for everyone else, that OPSEC is really something that starts from psychology. And I'm done. Thank you. Domande? I don't know if there are questions. Mannaggia. Ce l'avevo quasi fatta.
No, qua tra quelli messi male sono messo peggio io. Dopo
Me la pagherai.
No, è una domanda, è una mia curiosità. Tra i casi che hai avuto modo di leggere, tra i vari indictment, che immagino ne avrai guardati parecchi, hai mai trovato dettagli su come vengono organizzati le ispezioni, tra virgolette, ai border, in particolare US, di dispositivi? Ci sono mai state trapelate anche uffici?
Non tanto in questo genere di indagini, ma la pratica, diciamo che da questo punto di vista credo che ci sia stata un'evoluzione proprio negli ultimissimi anni, negli ultimissimi tempi. Cioè in questo momento credo che gli agenti diciamo di frontiera negli Stati Uniti abbiano una grande libertà nel decidere se poterti chiedere di perquisire il telefono, cioè in pratica non hanno bisogno di un mandato, possono farlo, possono chiederlo, tu puoi rifiutarti, ma credo col rischio di non entrare. Questo perché anche recentemente ci sono stati casi non legati a indagini prettamente, diciamo, di cybercrime, ma proprio di persone che sono andate lì e hanno avuto, diciamo, perquisiti i telefonini e magari hanno trovato dei messaggi WhatsApp di amici o altro e gli hanno, ad esempio, negato il visto. Quindi in realtà qui si apre tutto un altro genere di problemi, tra l'altro, cioè di questioni, ecco.
Ok.
A posto? Ah.
I would like to ask you a question. I'm here.
Okay, sorry.
Okay. As you mentioned the cybercrime, would you think that one of the problems in an OPSEC is like a pride of them when they want to show their achievements? Would you think that is a problem also, the pride that they have on themselves?
Of course, the aspect, this is like the social aspect we were talking about, because we have seen a lot of bragging about it, especially, I mean, even if you are alone, even if you are by yourself, it's very difficult to accomplish some, something that maybe has a lot of also impact on media and not really say anything, It's really, so this psychology aspect is really common, yeah. The need of recognition. Sometimes it's just really bragging about it, yeah. I think, okay? Okay, thank you.